My first question today asked for some entry points into the world of jazz for people who have never really been exposed to it and don't know people who are really into jazz. Jazz is about as tricky a genre to get into as you can possibly find because there are so many people that love the genre that are outright pretentious about it. But more importantly, there are just so many different styles and ways of approaching the sound, both old and new, that it can be really overwhelming. People ask me this question a lot, and whenever they do, I give them 3 very specific albums that I say, start here. Miles Davis doing Birth of the Cool, John Coltrane's Giant Steps, and Herbie Hancock's Headhunters. Not only are these 3 of my all-time favorite records, but they give a diverse enough approach to the genre that you're gonna find what you like and if you like it at all. And I think every song on all 3 of these albums is easily accessible to people who really don't have much exposure to jazz. From here, find what you like and then explore people like Pharoah Sanders or Ornette Coleman or Wayne Shorter, or maybe even something more modern like Medeski Martin and Wood, John Scofield, Gary Clark Jr. There's so much out there. As far as I'm concerned, jazz is so diverse that there's really something for everyone within the genre. Whether you want a spacey instrumental, something vocal, a bit of fusion, you're looking for bebop, hard bop, modal jazz, the list really goes on and on. Just find the style you really like at first, follow that one down the rabbit hole, and I guarantee you very quickly you're gonna love everything there is about jazz. My second question asked when and why I stopped listening to certain artists. That is to say, how many bad albums or jerk-like comments can I stand before I say, you know what, I'm done with this group. We all know that musicians grow and change as their careers progress, and in theory, their fan base is gonna go along that growth too. But I'm sure every single one of you off the top of your head can name at least half a dozen bands that you completely loved at one point in your life that you really don't listen to at all anymore. Sometimes it's a matter of you growing up, and sometimes you just say, you know what, that band's not for me anymore. I don't really have any hard fast rule of, this number of albums and I'm done with them, and I think this sort of thing really happens naturally. You just find yourself moving on to other groups and forgetting about other groups. Let me use a very personal example for this because I think it exemplifies everything you want to know. Aerosmith. In my early double-digit years and the first half of my teens, I was borderline obsessed with this band. Anybody who knew me then will verify that reality. I had all the records, saw them tons of times, t-shirts, you name it, I had it. But then they started putting out really weak albums that didn't interest me at all. And at the same time, my tastes had really expanded beyond their style of rock and roll. I'm not putting it down, I'm just saying it wasn't for me at that point. That's not to say I still don't blast Toys in the Attic regularly, because I do, but I really couldn't tell you anything the band has done musically over the last few years. I really fell off during that pairing of, I'm trying to think of the names of those albums. Just Push Play and Bobo About Something. It was early 2000s and I listened to both of them and I said, this is utter garbage. This band can do so much better. It doesn't mean that other people can't really be into them, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm gonna stick to the first 20 years of that band. It's not just them though. My musical taste had shifted where that style of rock and roll just wasn't my cup of tea. But on the flip side of that, it took well into my life before I really started to love folks like Willie Nelson and Captain Beefheart. My taste just needed time to progress to that point. Just let your ears continue to grow and know that there's nothing wrong with going back to certain albums and loving bands, but only for certain albums. No band is ever completely written off for me, and I tend to check out a little bit of what they do these days, but I'll be honest, I'd rather hear the new Prince Rupert's Drops album than the new Aerosmith album any day of the week. It's just where my ears and want for quality of music is these days, and I have a feeling you guys feel the same way. My last question asked why I thought that bands sometimes put these odd intros that sound like nothing else on the song at the beginning of songs, and it seems disjointed for the rest of the track, and that musical idea is never revisited after the first, say, 5 or 10 seconds of the song. There are so many songs that do this, and there's no question that in a lot of cases, it really doesn't make sense. In situations like Beck's Guess I'm Doing Fine, I think it really works well because the bottom falls out of the song in a really cool way. It's a bit of a launching pad to get the overall mood right for that song, and I'm not sure if it would have worked without it. But you really do have songs that make no sense at all. They've got some weird opening that lasts for like 5 to 10 seconds, and then it goes in this completely different direction. A lot of the time in that situation, the band probably in the studio had an idea that this is where that song is going to end up, here's where it is now, so we'll just screw around with it live until we get that. Bands like Counting Crows do this better than anybody. You can go to their shows and hear a song that sounds completely different, but it sounds great. But the one-off situations, I don't know, maybe it's just the band having a joke, or they have this spark of an idea and they're like, I have to put this on the record, so let's put it right there. Also, you do have situations where it's just the band being pretentious. They're trying to be too cool for school, and in the end, they're not. You also find this at the end of songs a lot of times, and sometimes in that situation, I think it's to break the mood, throw the listener off, something like that. Or sometimes the band just wants to be weird and they like how it sounds. The end of Sgt. Pepper's is the best situation to find that. Clearly, these moments get people's attention, and more than anything, I think that's the point. But I will admit, sometimes you just have to wonder why they made a certain musical choice. So those are my questions for this week. If you have any music-related questions, questions, go ahead and email me at thedailyguru@gmail.com. You can follow me on Twitter and Facebook right here, and I'll see you guys again next time.